Welcome to Your Daily Dose, a devotion ministry of the Faith Baptist Church of Franklin and Middletown, Ohio. Thanks for joining us each weekday as we share God's Word with you. It's your daily prescription for all that ails you. And now, Your Daily Dose.
Good morning. Welcome to Your Daily Dose. My name is Bob Nolan. Glad that you're along with us this morning. When the wealthy businessman had choked on a fishbone at a restaurant, he was quite fortunate that a doctor was seated at a nearby table. Springing up quickly, the doctor went over and skillfully removed the bone and saved the businessman's life. As soon as he had calmed himself down and could talk again, he enthusiastically thanked the doctor, and he offered to pay him for his services. He said to the doctor, just name the fee. Doctor thought about it for a minute, and he said, okay, how about half of what you'd have offered when the bone was still stuck in your throat? Time is something that I have always been fascinated with. And I think the reason is that time is only a construct here on earth. It has no heavenly basis. During the 6 days of creation, God made time. He started with the evening and the morning that made a day. And of course, man over time learned things about different lunar cycles and how a month is made. Then, you have the different calendars. You have the Hebrew calendar being a lunisolar calendar versus the Gregorian calendar that we use today. There's so many facets to it. To me, there's just something fascinating about time. And that is that man tracks it like crazy. Since the dawn of God's creation, man has been tracking time. From the observance of the sun, the moon, and celestial bodies, all the way to today's complicated math. Today we can calculate time all the way down to something called Planck time, which I can't even comprehend because it's in the 10, 15 decimal points of a second. The truth is, we are obsessed with time. In fact, I can tell you that today is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020, but that's, the Gregorian calendar. It's actually the 25th of Tishrei, the year 5781, if you look at the Hebrew calendar. Now, I've said all that to say this. We don't even get a chance to wake up naturally in our lives. I don't know about you, but I hate alarm clocks. We are literally awakened every day by the constraint of time. Now, in my few short years on this earth, I've become to be even more keenly aware of time. Well, simply because it's hard for me to even comprehend, but there's more time behind me now than there is before me on this earth. Paul wrote in Romans chapter 13, verse 11, he said, and that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation, nearer than when we believed. I've come to realize a few things about time. The first is that time is precious. In our modern English syntax, we have started to redefine some words, and we use words to mean things that they didn't necessarily intend to be. I mean, the word precious is one. I mean, we say things, oh, look at that newborn baby, so precious. Then we might look at someone who we might consider to be a simpleton and say, oh, how precious. Or we see gold and silver, and we relate that it's a precious metal. The truth is, time is precious. The word that we use today comes from the old French, précieux, and Latin, which is préciosus. And between the two of them, what it means is it gives the meaning that there's special value to whatever you're talking about because of its price. Now, the implication is that you can buy precious things, but my friends, you can't buy time. For all intents and purposes, time is priceless. Even your MasterCard can't buy time. Paul says here, knowing the time. I think back to that wealthy businessman we were talking about earlier. In the heat of the moment, he was watching as the clock began to run out on his time. He may not have understood it prior to attempting to swallow that fish bone, but he sure did after its removal. Paul said, know the time. Is it precious to us? The second is that time is passing. Paul notes the fact that time is passing there in verse 11. He said, the time of our salvation is nearer than when we believed. I've always said that the human heart is an interesting machine. One of the things I enjoy doing is designing print materials. And not just designing the material, but then seeing them being printed through various methods. I used to love it when I was in the newspaper business. I could head down to the Cincinnati Enquirer's presses that we had down there on Western Avenue in Cincinnati. And I love standing there and just watch the presses run. Just amazing to me. I love to watch those papers fly by at high speeds and all be printed. I even love to watch a desktop printer as I print the church bulletin each week. Just the idea that 4 colors of toner could come together to create something. Well, we got a new big, huge printer at the church. It's really there so that we can produce in larger quantities. The poor printer at my house that's sitting right over here is about dead. But I was talking to the salesperson, to make a long story short, which I know you're all thinking, oh, you have our long stories, Bob. But I was talking to the salesperson when we bought this machine about the duty cycle of the printer. And it's an interesting thing because even a machine has an expectation of time. The duty cycle of a printer tells us in its lifetime how many pages we can expect it to print before it becomes useless or unrepairable. It's the same way with a car. We buy a used car. What's the very first question that we ask? First thing we do is say, oh, what's the mileage? And the heart is no exception. I've always joked that I don't exercise because it raises the heart rate. And God only gives every person a certain number of heartbeats in a lifetime, and I'm not wasting any of mine on an elliptical. But the truth is, we get closer to home with every passing second. You ever notice how you can sit still, but the world keeps moving around you? Time is passing. What are we doing with the time that we have left? And lastly, time is provisional. When I came across the story of the businessman, I thought that's too good of an illustration not to use for a daily dose. And so I grabbed my pen and I started writing, and I wrote down 3 or 4 points. And the only one that started with a P was provisional. The other 2 I just adapted. But then I started struggling with the word provisional, and I started looking for another word to replace it. I couldn't find one. The reason I was struggling with application is because I think I was misinterpreting the word. When I say that time is provisional, what I mean is that time only exists until it is permanently replaced. Now, that's actually the Merriam-Webster's definition. Now, I know they teach you in Bible college. You never actually go quote the dictionary. But hey, I didn't go to Bible college, so I don't feel so bad about it. There's no professor out there that's cringing because I just did that. When I say time is provisional, what I mean is that time will once and for all, and this applies to everybody, will be permanently replaced. We only have time here on this earth because God provided it for us. Time is His provision. Time is not ours. But we don't treat it that way, do we? My friend, I think we spend more time on our cell phones reading Facebook and Instagram and Twitter than we do witnessing to others. We spend more time going to festivals and craft fairs and the like than we do reading our Bibles. We spend more time watching sports than we do in church. The truth is that Paul hit it on the head. But Paul hit it on the head more than one place, by the way. Go to Ephesians chapter 5, talking to the church at Ephesus. I love the 5th chapter of Ephesians is great on its own, but when you get to verse 15, it really kind of comes to a head there. He says, "See then," everything else that he said, "walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise." Verse 16, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Now, redeeming the time is probably not a phrase we would use in English today. So when I go back and I look for what was the intent behind that verse, in the Greek language, there were two words that dealt with time. One was simply seconds and minutes and hours and the addition of those over days, weeks, months, years, while the other carried the understanding of a definitive portion of time, a time where something specific should happen. In other words, the time. It was perfectly written in the King James. Paul here isn't just, passing along the old adage saying, make the most of every moment. What he is saying is make the most of the time. We have to make the most out of every opportunity, every moment that we have for the Lord. I go back to the opening story with the businessman. He had a unique opportunity. The opportunity that he had was a chance to live after he had the chance to realize just how short his time was on earth. My friend, time is a precious asset that money can't buy. It passes us by whether we're busy or whether we're idle. And we must remember, time is provisional. One day our time will run out. And remember, it's only what we've done for Christ that lasts. I wrote that last line and I thought, that sounds familiar. And then I was reminded of what C.T. Studd wrote. And I'm not going to say the whole thing because I'm sure you've heard it before, but just the first two paragraphs, two little lines I heard one day, traveling along life's busy way, bringing conviction to my heart, and from my mind would not depart. Only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Only one life, yes, only one. Soon will its fleeting hours be done. Then in that day my Lord to meet, and stand before his judgment seat. Only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Are you making the most of your time? Have a blessed day in the Lord. We look forward to seeing you in God's house again soon. Have a great day.
This has been your Daily Dose, a ministry of Faith Baptist Church. Subscribe to our YouTube channel today and click the bell next to the button to sign up for email notifications each time we live stream or release a new video. To learn more about faith, please visit our website, fitinatfaith.com, for more information about our church. Have a great day in the Lord.